Okay, welcome to your bonus materials for Qigong for the spring season. So in this section, I just want to go over, this is basically Qigong for common complaints, and we are working with common complaints of the liver and gallbladder meridian because those are the meridians associated with this season. So this is just a brief section to sort of augment the workouts that you have in case you want to use your Qigong to address something specific in your system. So the first thing to know is, according to Chinese medicine, there are three main syndromes that we are going to be using our Qigong to work with in the issues that affect this liver and gallbladder meridian. So for our purposes, now this is an oversimplification. You could look up in some text on Chinese medicine and get more detail. But for our purposes, you are going to be working with stagnation, liver qi stagnation primarily. Then you can be working with uprising energy. So this is very specific to this, and it has a lot to do with heat, but it has to do in the theory of Chinese medicine with the fact that the wood element, it's a symbolism of things that are growing upward. And so this element is particularly prone to upward moving conditions, energy going up too much. And then the last one that we'll work with is deficiency, which is particularly going to be deficiencies of qi and blood, the yin nourishing, not qi and blood, yin and blood. So in general, we could say yin substances deficiency in the liver. The liver doesn't get qi deficient, it tends to get qi stagnation. So this is for those of you who are studying more in depth, this is just something to know, or if you are working with a Chinese medicine practitioner and they throw these words around, hey, liver qi stagnation and liver blah, 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 then you can have a little idea of how this relates to your Qigong. So just briefly, the qi stagnation, because the wood element is meant to go up and out. This is your primary sort of metaphor for the wood element is this, and it's like a tree or a plant that grows up and out. As you'll remember in one of our last workouts, we did, the final meditation was this meditation on giving from the heart. And that's meant to work with this wood element energy and balance that out. The virtue of the wood element energy is said to be giving, generosity, or like benevolence or gregariousness. And that's this sense of like growing and just growing like a fruit tree almost. It just grows and it just gives fruit, and that fruit could even fall in the ground and make a whole new fruit tree. So it's this energy of growth up and out. Okay, stagnation in the liver channel, and think of that metaphorically, not necessarily just the organ, but this does seem to affect that organ. The organ seems to affect that qi, but that's a long discussion for later. In this case, when that up and out energy gets blocked or stifled by there's a lot of ways that can happen, then you get this thing called liver qi stagnation. And its main symptom is this sense of like being pent up or frustrated. So there's kind of a reciprocal causation here. If you're frustrated, that is the blocking of that upward and outward energy. But also, if that energy is blocked, maybe you just haven't taken enough walks lately, or maybe you have a yin deficiency that's not like lubricating the system, and so the qi can't get that flow on, then that will make you frustrated. But this sense of frustrated, right, what the word means, something wants to go somewhere and it's blocked. Frustration really means to block or to obstruct something. That's the whole sense of this liver qi stagnation. So what are you going to do for that? Well, any of the movements that drive the energy outward, upward, and outward. So we had that dragon shows its claws. We had the tiger claw exercises. We had the punching exercises. All of these that you can see are going to be that energy moving upward and outward, not too much upward, mostly on the outward. You can see there aren't any movements that really go like this. It's all this out and laterally that are going to be working against that sense of stagnation so that you have this sense of freedom and flow. Okay, the energy moving up, this is related to liver heat, but it's also can be related to liver wind, which can come from an excess or deficiency. Again, complicated topic. We don't have time to talk about it here. But the thing to know is that that wood element, like we said, it does grow up and out. And in this case, we have the sense that things are going up too much. Maybe you had that stagnation, and like a compost bin, it turns into heat, and that heat rises up. Or maybe you don't have enough yin substances, and the heat is sort of just empty and floating. It doesn't have anything to cool and anchor it down. So the symptoms for this are headaches coming up along this gallbladder channel, so into the temples, or along the liver channel, which is to the top of the head or behind the eyeballs. This is the classic migraine pattern, is a pattern of liver heat. As well, the wind, which just means like an erratic movement. Instead of a smooth flow, which is that wood element, smooth flow of qi, you get erratic flow of qi, and you can get little twitches in your eyes or twitches in other parts of the body, but it's this upward energy. So the shoulders are tense, you're irritable, you're like a hair trigger, and in this case it's going to be anything that moves the energy down in the body. So we only have a few of those in our sessions, but this movement where we did shoo, that descending tone, shoo, and then the downward movement, and in that you're visualizing and imagining anything la 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 comes all the way down, and we tend to imagine energy leaves out through the feet if it's stagnant or pathological energy, or if it just needs to be redistributed, it comes down and goes wherever it needs to go in the body. The other one we did for that was the 10 dragons rushing through the forest. So this is another descending energy through the gallbladder channel. And we also did this gallbladder point number 21, which is one of the best points to send energy down in the body. And the thing you need to know about that is that's why it's contraindicated for pregnancy. So you don't want to hit that gallbladder point in pregnancy. If somebody massages around there, it's not said to be a problem. It's just that sending energy downward, because this point can do that very powerfully. So you can do this. Don't mistreat it. Don't hit it too hard. But you can hold this acupoint and have a downward intention if you have a friend who is getting these kind of headaches or shoulder strain or something like that. And a lot of time it can bring relief very quickly. Similarly, that point on the foot that we did, liver 3, it's a point for stagnation, but you can use that to pull and anchor those energies downward. Okay, so these are the downward moving. And then one hidden one that you might not notice is this punching in that downward direction also helps to just send that energy down. Okay, so we got stagnation, we got too much energy rising, usually because of heat, and then we have the deficiencies. So this liver energy is upward and outward. It doesn't get deficient in qi because it's the regulator of the flow of qi, like it's just in charge of qi. But it does get deficient in yin and in blood. So these are, and this is involved often in that upward rising syndrome, because these are the yin cooling substances that should be anchoring the energies down. If they're not there, like if the yin and blood are deficient, this is said to give rise to liver wind, because it's like there's the space of the channels is not full, and so energy has a chance to flitter around in there. This is the feeling if you've ever had restless leg syndrome. This is a liver yin or blood deficiency, and that's what it feels. It just feels like something's just like rustling around in the body. And then similarly with these twitches, with a sense of anxiety or irritability, that can be because there's not enough to anchor things in the body. So which movements do we use to address liver yin and blood deficiency? Well, generally there's a tonified through other organs. So your spleen is the source of all the blood in the body. It's said to extract the nutrition from your food and to be able to create the blood. So when we did our rubbing of the spleen, this is to address that liver blood deficiency primarily. And then of course we rubbed the liver itself, and this also directly helps to tonify that organ. But we tend to do less of that in medical Qigong because medical Qigong tends to tonify your qi. So you don't need to tonify the qi of the liver. Usually, you do need to tonify the qi of the spleen, which means you're adding vitality so it can do its job, which is to make blood. So it's kind of a one step before, you're nourishing the roots to get the branches to grow. And then for the yin, you nourish the kidneys, which are said to be the source of all the yin in the body. The yin and yang, actually, but in this case, we are working for the yin. As well, we have, when we did the pulling up energy to fill the kidneys and the lower belly. This can also help to anchor that uprising energy, but it's filling the lower dantian, which helps to nourish the spleen and the kidney energy so that they produce blood, so that they extract yin, so that they don't waste yin, because that energy is anchored in the body. Let me see, are there other good yin building exercises? Those are your main ones. Is working that spleen meridian, working the kidneys, and then visualizing that green light into the liver itself with the sense that it's going to be nourished. Oh, and we also did spleen 6 in our second workout, I believe it was, and that is also to help nourish your spleen and your yin. That's a big point for yin, spleen 6. You can look that up if you're interested. So those are your 3 main points. The last thing to know about is the exercises that we didn't really cover here. Well, some I might have forgotten, but there's in that second set, there's a lot of these big sort of yoga stretches. Wow. And the idea with that is just creating that sense of flow up and out. So those can address your that liver qi stagnation would be the one that they're primarily addressing, but more you could think that they're just harmonizing this meridian as a whole. They're harmonizing the gallbladder meridian, whose nature is to zigzag all through the sides of the body, and so any of this twist and opening up the sides is going to be regulating that meridian. And we'll talk about a couple of symptoms, kind of more or less. This is from the Chinese medical pattern recognition perspective. Next, we'll talk about some symptoms that you might get, like things like flank pain, certain types of headaches, and particularly we're going to focus on piriformis syndrome, which is a false sciatica that comes from your butt muscles. So that's coming up, but this is your foundation in the syndromes of the wood element according to traditional Chinese medicine, and some ways that you might craft these Qigong exercises according to your unique presentation. Okay, stay tuned.